Hello there, my name is Lamin Jai and this is News Review. Thank you for being there. Coming up for you on the show today, the IEC has cleared General Lamin Bojang's Alliance for National Reorientation and Development Party there. He spoke to reporters yesterday at the IEC. We have a report on that. Also GPF, that's the Gambia Police Force, whole stakeholders consultative seminar. We have a report of Setimati Jau and Mar Nyang, my guest today, as the Supreme Court has declared us unconstitutional, a proposal there by the country's lawmakers that was sometime in December last year to borrow themselves up to $54 million. So today the Supreme Court said this act is unlawful and then blocked the move there. So Setimati Jau and Mar Nyang, these are the officials of Gambia Participates and the Center for Research and Policy Development who sued them to court. They will be my guests today. For all of that, we will see what the newspaper report on today. They begin with the standard, their lead story, minority leader. Security now a big concern in Gambia. General Bojang rolls out ANRD to fill Gambia's leadership vacuum. Well, we have a report on that for you. Dabo urges NAMS to initiate SAB to cover diaspora voting. Businessman Dekori CCA protest Pura's enforcement against him. Government declares full commitment to press freedom. That's in the context of the International Press Freedom Day. So in their lead story today, the Standard is saying in a rare kind comment about former President Jammeh's rule, the minority leader of the National Assembly has admitted that safety of life and property was better under the dictator than now. General Bojang rules out ANRD to fill Gambia's leadership vacuum. The leader of the newly formed Alliance for National Reorientation and Development has declared that his party is established to provide the Gambia with an effective leadership, which he said is lacking. So we have a report on him there. We will bring you that report later. Dabo urges NAMS to initiate SAB to cover diaspora voting. The leader of the United Democratic Party has appealed to the National Assembly to use its discretion to initiate supplementary appropriation bill to ensure the diaspora is registered to vote. That's Dabo's view there. Businessman Dekori Cisse protest Pura's enforcement against him. Businessman Dekori Cisse of Brookwood, who was recently hit with a fine of $300,000 by the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority for allegedly building a petrol station without permit, has protested against the decision, describing it as unfair and misleading. Yes, let's see what the point is reporting. Two convicted women convicted of conspiracy stealing. That's the CCTV scandal there. Post-dictatorship election, GPU expresses journalist safety concern. Jammeh trial in Gambia may cause instability. Lawyer Gomez explains how he disregarded Jammeh's directive. So according to the point, Principal Magistrate Aissatou Janen Jai of the Kanifing Magistrates Court yesterday convicted and sentenced Kumba Seka and Mai Balde to pay a fine of $25,000 each in default to serve 6 months imprisonment for conspiracy and stealing, and $25,000 each in default to serve 6 months in prison for stealing. This followed their plea of guilt. They were ordered to pay a compensation of $171,695 in default to serve 2 years in prison. This amount should be paid in 3 months from the 30th of May to the 30th of July. So those are the women there that were caught in a shop or a store in Sarakunda. They are shoplifting. That's all for the news first. Let's take a break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. The IEC on Monday, that is yesterday, registered General Lamin Bojang's party, the Alliance for National Reorientation and Development. This comes months after General Bojang was sacked by Gambia Action Party over his nude photo scandal. There, Matisango reports.
It was his nude photo scandal last year that threatens to end his political presidential candidate of Gambia Action Party. He had resigned as the country's deputy ambassador to Russia. He sweated over the scandal and protested his innocence.
I want to apologize to Gambian people. The advice that my parents gave me was to be truthful and be honest to people. And that is how I have lived my life all throughout. I have been lured into politics through members of Gambia Action Party with the desire for us to join together and move this country forward through politics. I have never committed any criminal activities. I'm not a criminal. Not even during this moment. I am completely innocent. I am completely innocent. I am completely innocent.
Gambia Action Party, however, proceeded to pull the trigger on him. He has since been on hibernation, but the former Army General has now emerged with his own political party. He was at the IEC on Monday to pick up the registration certificate for his newly Alliance for National Reorientation and Development.
The DRD is a legal party with the IEC. Thank you, sir. God bless. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Bojang engaged reporters on his priorities if he should ever be president.
But ANRD is not going to be out there to be criticizing. When it comes to security in this country, honestly speaking, there are issues that are there that is causing or contributing in the insecurity that we have in this country. The skyrocketing of prices is simply because the people don't know. They don't know the situation. When I remember when the president, when he was doing the campaign in 3 years, he promised Gambians that he is going to reduce the price of basic commodities like rice to 500. This is not feasible. It is not feasible because there are no manufacturing companies in this country that are producing rice. So if any politician or any political party that comes up to say that if he wins election he is going to reduce the price of rice in this country, I'll tell the president that you are lying. ANRD has a solution. The solution that agriculture is the solution in this country. It is going to fight unemployment. It is going to fight corruption. It is also going to help generate income for people, but also going to help us to eat what we grow, to grow what we eat.
The Brufut native slammed President Barrow, calling him clueless, and advised Gambians to watch out to avoid being deceived. He further went on to say that Gambians should not involve in tribal politics.
The Gambian people watch, they must watch and be very, very careful who comes to them to talk to them about politics in this country. I think we are tired of the political deception. I think we are tired of political lie. I think we are tired of that type of politics of, expressing tribal sentiments. What we want Gambian people to understand is that let them take note of ANRD. Let them take note of ANRD. We are out to solve their problem. We are out to solve their problem. And we are telling Gambians that anybody who comes to you, watch the person. Let them not be those type of politicians who are out there to enrich themselves. And by that I mean like what we have today. The current president in this country is clueless because he has never had any experience in this country. He has no work experience. He has no job experience. Sometimes smart people will learn on the job, but for him, he has no job experience. He is not learning on the job, and that is why Gambia is sinking every day. So this is something that every Gambian has to watch. The history of the Gambian people. Let them watch ANRD. You cannot find us being corrupted now and before. You cannot find us being indisciplined group of people now and before. You cannot point finger at us for being aggressive or whatever in this country now and before. So we want people to make sure that they do their own scrutiny for politicians that are going to come to them to ask for their mandate. Politicians must be disciplined, but they must have a clean record. Clean record in governance, clean record in everything that they have done in the past and now. That is something that we are going to come up with very well when we stand on our good.
He concluded that his party is here for Gambia and Gambian people. All the politicians are here to enrich themselves. This is why our sovereignty is at risk, because most of our businesses in the country are handled by strangers. For TFN News Review, I am Mati Senghor.
TAF Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. TAF Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots in sizes ranging from 220 to 570 meters square. Deposit as low as $83,600 is only an 18-month interest-free payment plan with only 20% deposit on the service plots. Please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333. TAF Africa Global presents the new Tulip Gardens. TAF Tulip Gardens is set to comprise service plots in sizes ranging from 220 to 570 meters square. Deposit as low as $83,600 is only an 18-month interest-free payment plan with only 20% deposit on the service plots. Please contact 376-2333 or 776-2333. Tough.
Welcome back. So it was a move that set tongues wagging, that a lot of Gambians railed against. Well, late last year, that was in December, members of the National Assembly decided to borrow themselves Gambian taxpayers' money that ran up to $54 million. They wanted to use this money to build their houses, and anger around that. As a result, two top civil society organizations, the Center for Research and Policy Development and Gambia Participate, went to the Supreme Court to sue them, really, that this is illegal. So today, the Supreme Court declared as unlawful and unconstitutional this act there by the MPs. So officials of these two organizations are here with me. I have Said Mati Jau. I also have Mr. Man Yang. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Thank you, Lavi.
Let me start with my left, or let me start with Sid. Sid, massive development there, this decision there by the Supreme Court. How are you feeling, first of all? You took the MPs there, you expressed disappointment in what the MPs did, and today the Supreme Court ruled in your favor.
Yeah, like every Gambian, I am very happy. I'm very happy in the sense that this is a victory for Gambia, the organization. Our job is to ensure that we represent the voice of the people and policymakers in their activities. So when the ruling came out today, we feel like we have been vindicated, and it also shows the extent and then the length to which we have progressed as a country, especially when it comes to our judicial democracy. So we are very happy.
So why do you think it was wrong, first of all, that the MPs took this money or wanted to take this money? Why do you think it was wrong?
I mean, today everybody knows about the cost of living in this country, and everybody knows about the challenges that ordinary Gambians are facing, and these are realities that we are all facing, we are all seeing, experiencing. And at the point when this decision was made at the National Assembly, pass a bill or motion to give themselves loan, I think that was not morally right in terms of the public perception. But we also felt that policy makers and politicians should be the primary duty bearers when it comes to our laws, when it comes to our procedures, and we felt that the way and manner in which they went about this loan was not in line with the Constitution. So therefore, we went to the Supreme Court to seek for interpretation, and today we are glad that they rule in this regard.
So, Mar, here is the thing. The MPs insisted, they argued that it is their right, they have a right to make their own salary, to decide what they are paid, what allowances they get. yet you took them to court.
See, that's where the problem is. They think they got the right, and they think they have the power to legislate laws that will govern how they will receive their salaries and then their allowances. But lawmakers, as they are known for, right? And we should not only listen to what they say as if that is the only right thing. And that's the reason why, as of the civil society, especially us that focusing on budget transparency, if you know the budget process, the executive, right, the president, according to section 152 of the Constitution, gives the president to task the state minister of finance to present what we call the executive budget proposal. Now, the executive budget proposal, once tabled to the parliament, right, the parliament is given what is called an oversight role. And as part of their oversight role, what they need to do is to look at what has been presented to them before the executive, and then look at areas where they decreased, but they cannot create. The key word here is to create. Here, when the parliament realized that they needed a loan, there could have been a procedure that they should have taken. But they forced the 54.4 million inside the executive budget proposal. So if you look at the two budget copies, the initial draft that was tabled in November by the state minister of finance, it didn't have nothing like 54.4 million revolving loan scheme. So when they came, they said they needed a loan, they have the power to do it, and they should decide for themselves. And they voted, they passed a motion and voted for it, and they forced that particular amount of money inside the budget, and they taxed the Minister of Finance to go back and revise that. So that's where the mistake is, and that's where they have actually taken the powers of the executive, right? And
so is this what the Supreme Court saw?
Yes, the Supreme Court saw this, and they declared that action unconstitutional. And then the Supreme Court also made a very strong decision, and one of which is they have asked, and this is one of our prayers, right? They've asked the 54.4 million to be struck away from the 2021 executive, because the ways that they have actually legislated that is unconstitutional. And then also they've made the ruling that any member of parliament or staff of the National Assembly that has taken the money out of that save this 54.4 million. And then really, before we actually took this case to the Supreme Court, we made an analysis, right? Out of this 54.4 million, we look at those parliamentarians that actually voted yes for this in NBR, LRR, CRR, and URR. We saw that 31 million US dollars, $31 million could have actually been used to build 40 boreholes that could have benefited 40 communities. I mean, that could have benefited 300,000 beneficiaries in these 5 regions, right? And then the remaining amount of money, 23 million US dollars, can actually 3 to 4 regions, right? So at least 40,000 communities. And I'll give you one example. For example, if you build a standard healthcare in Sarebojo, 30,000 people will benefit from it. And to date, Sarebojo does not have a healthcare service, right? So we try to put that perspective. But the problem is, most of the time, unfortunately, they take us, the civil society, for granted. That media activists, we are street activists, and the like. We have moved past that, right? We have to sustain this democracy. This is not a witch hunt for the parliament or parliamentarians. This is about our democracy and the future of our democracy. This is just one out of the many litigations that will be coming.
Quite a statement there. So, Mr. Joe, in terms of corruption, how does this weigh when it comes to the conversation around corruption? Because I know this money, this amount, staggering, but the MPs are insisting that even though they lost, they are insisting that this is their birthright. They have every right to pay themselves whatever they want to be paid. Yet, there is this issue of corruption that is being bandied about, that taking money, trying to create budgets here and there to take money could really amount to corruption. So how does this one weigh to the issue of corruption?
I think to start, we're not against incentives, because I believe I've always been arguing that Parliament needs to be financially independent, because I expect them to be able to do their work. I expect people, whether it's in Parliament, in the security, in wherever you are, I mean, at least there's a, you need to to get something that is commensurate with what you're putting in, at least to ensure that there's sustainability and livelihood. But then, of course, you talk about corruption, and in this country, I mean, you know, we sleep and we dine and eat with corruption. I mean, even if it is not happening, the perception around it is this distrust or lack of trust in our own institution, when people feel like their representative are not there to protect their rights, to protect their interests, increasing, and this was also related to the issue of corruption. And therefore, for us, you know, like we keep saying that we are not here to please anyone, we are here to do our work. Thousands of Gambians, or even millions of Gambians, kids that we are teaching in the universities, kids that
I mean, your organization, Gambia Participates, you have a special corruption, but also specifically on the lawmakers, on the MPs, because really these are people's representatives. So they cannot, the country can ill afford to.
It's overwhelming, and I keep saying it is underreported in this country. The reports that we see is actually maybe the tip of the iceberg, right? The lack of development in this country, the poor economy in this country, the acute poverty in this country is nothing but corruption. And it's not only monetary related. The institutional corruption in this country is also something else that we do not look at, right? Most of the time when we talk about corruption, we tend to look at the monetary part, but it actually undermines our democracy, right? Especially when it comes to bureaucratic corruption and in that of the issue of grant corruption. There are certain policies that are being made, and they have been corruptly being made to self-empower a particular arm of the government or a particular corporation or institution of the government against the interests of the citizens, right? And when it comes to as well, some of the development agenda, or let's say infrastructure that are also being given through procurement and the likes, we have always been seeing favoritism taking lead in those areas. So, you know, we need to really clean up this country, because where we are, the reason why we cannot move forward is because of this. And then it is not something that is not known to the government. Right? They see it every day, every now and then. And one of the things that is absent in this country is accountability. If the civil society, if we do not take this, if you haven't taken these parliamentarians to court, there was not going to be any accountability, because the money is already enacted. It is in the enacted budget. They were going to use it. The executive is not going to take any step, right? That's the reason why we, the civil society, now needs to stand up and then, you know, keep making sure that whatever action that is taken, not only the parliament, but that of the executive as well. So when it comes to the issue of accountability, we've seen how the evidences are clear and there. What happened, right? They put them on administrative leave, or they relieve them from their services, and that's it. That is not accountability. That actually encourages and paves way for public sector corruption, and that's the reason why people don't care. If you were in
impunity.
Impunity. If you were in not Bangkok, but if you are in this Chinese country that actually have result of that, especially Republic of Korea, right? They have what we call the anti-corruption initiative assessment, where they assess institutions and get to know how corrupt-free they are and the likes. But coming back to the action of the parliament court itself, you know, the actions that they have taken is not to the best interest of the people. It is for their personal interest. And this itself is abuse of power. And that is also corruption, because you are abusing your power for your private gain, right? The people in this will not have fat salary, right? But if you want fat salary, right, there is a way and procedures where you should be able to get that salary. Nobody is going to question that. If you want loan, there is a way and manner whereby a loan should be given. And remember, these people are, most of them will not be re-elected in 2022 April. So for us, we believe this is unacceptable, and it's not to the best interest of the people, and most importantly, it is unconstitutional, and that's the reason why we made this bold step.
Now, Mr. Joe, to account when the law has found them wanting.
I mean,
where does it lead?
The Supreme Court is saying that you cannot do that. It's unconstitutional. I mean, they should really learn from this, and we should all learn from this, and then see how to move ahead. Of course, I mean, it also saves them in a way, like they don't have to take any money that they should repay back. I mean, of course, that's one way. But then, for me, what is most important is, if we are serious about this country, we need to start accepting and putting forward our procedures, because democracy cannot be democracy without the processes. It cannot be democracy trying to insert or, push themselves in that. But at the end of the day, I think this should be a victory for all of us, that this strengthens our democracy, and I think for me that should be the takeaway lesson, nothing else.
Where do you think this leaves them, the MPs?
Well,
will they now have the moral standing or authority to question government, central government executive, when it comes to accountability?
Well, I think where this leaves the parliament is for them to get to know that they don't have unlimited powers to do whatever they feel like doing. The same thing with that of the executive. I mean, this judgment is not only for parliament, but it also is a wake-up call for government and government officials when taking actions, that there are people watching. Right? If you take actions that are not inconsistent with our laws, it will be questioned, and then we will save the money of this country. Our wealth has been plundered, right? It has been misused. It has made few people in this system business moguls. They've privatized the government and make it a business. You understand? Because we've been watching and complaining without taking actions. We have an institution that we can use at our disposal to ensure we protect our money. So, this Gambia Participate or Center for Research, this is for the whole civil society fraternity, that it is now time. We've been sitting in conferences on tables discussing, lobbying, asking, but it's subjected to political will. And they don't grant us. And sometimes they go out and then criticize us for talking and acting without having no impact. So this is the impact that you were waiting for. We have given.
Dismissed as less significant, but with this development.
Yeah, of course. We are very, we understand our role within our society, and we have been very critical to ourselves. We've talked about the fact that we've been weak and disorganized, and that's a reality. But this is also showing that we are not only that. We are moving, and then we are ready to ensure that we use the law. In some places they call it lawfare. I mean, we use the law because it is for all of us. So therefore, as civil society, our role is to ensure that the demand actors, the citizens, what they want, what they desire, it's been heard. Their voices are heard by the government, by the people, on a way forward. But of course, just look at this 54 million. If it was allocated to Bohol, like Mar rightly said, of course, and then we expect these kids to grow up to lead this country, to sustain this country, to continue this country. And if we do not future of this country, we are the new generation, and what we need to do is to ensure that our future is secured and the future of the next generation as money. The properties that belong to this country must be for Gambians. Lamin, come on. 80 kilometers of our coastline, still we are a poor country. We cannot be poor in this country. We don't lack the resources. We are poorly managed, and therefore that needs to change. We need to follow the laws. We need to follow the rules and regulations to ensure that everybody benefit equally in this society. Otherwise, what is the essence of being a citizenship in a country where only a few people enjoy it and the rest of the society become beggars?
That's quite clear, and it will be active every time because people will always be coming there.
Yeah, and definitely.
Like.
And then, this move also gives the citizens hope, right? That if you are crying and your tears is rolling down your cheek, you go to the parliament, they cannot wipe your tears, you settle to the other arm of the government. Because that's what we did with the parliament when it comes to the constitution and others. They did not wipe our tears, right? Most of them were looking at inwards instead of the general interest. And they betrayed the citizens on that. That's a different topic. But to focus on this, what the Supreme Court has done is actually to give hope that our democracy is gradual, how to make sure that there is accountability, whereas the executive and then that of the legislature fail to institute accountability action that is being demanded by the civil society. Look, the National Audit Office always come with compelling findings in their audit reports, right? The executive, by law of the 2015, and then that of the 2015 National Audit Act, and then that of the 1997 Constitution. Once there is a finding, especially in terms of maladministration and mismanagement of public wealth, the IG, Inspector General of Police, is supposed to mount further investigation and prosecute the ones that are found wanting. Has there been one? None, right? The legislature, once the report of the National Audit Office also tabled before them, right? They see the recommendations. Instead of instituting those recommendations, they did not. So where does it leave us? Right? With all these corrupt reports that have been coming from the government and outside the government, no actions. We, for God's sake, we do not always want, You don't want where someone is found guilty to be sidelined, say, okay, we've relieved him. You disassociate yourself from the party. You need to set examples. And setting the example means, right, there has to be severe actions that has to be taken to set the pace that, look, the wealth of the country cannot be played with. And as a result of the absence of that, the wealth of the country is being played with, right? It's been personalized. And then as a result, we keep living in this poor country. I mean, it's sad to say, but Gambians will have been, in a better position right now. Because like Seth said, we have the resources. Our natural resources, this is also another thing that we need to look at. The way the revenues are being collected in our natural resources, both from the extractive and then that of the non-extractive, you hardly in fact see that in the budget. It was of recent that I get to see $750 million being unexpected revenue from the extractives, right? And sometimes you just look at the budget and then you see oil royalties, 500 million. Where is it coming from? It's not stated in them. It's not clearly stated. And then all these revenue-making institutions, if we leverage on them and then put the mechanism that will frustrate the maladministration of our wealth, then we will have not been having this 5.9 billion deficit in our budget, or having about $60 billion on loans that we still have to resolve. So debt that we still need to resolve. So it is worrying, and it's nothing but lack of good institutions.
Nyangan Joe, thank you for coming. It would appear that we are struggling with some internet issues there. But thank you guys for coming. And once again, congratulations on your Supreme Court victory there. Today it's what I call heartache for members of parliament today. They've lost this fifth. Well, I think they can use this money now, since they are complaining. The finance minister is saying that the Gambians in the diaspora voting is not budgeted. So maybe they can take this money.
And interestingly, it was some of the monies from the IEC that was
exactly some of the money that was.
But then this is a congratulation to everybody, because it was not only us. Everybody shouted, and then we just took the complaints of the public and then to the Supreme Court.
And then took it to the Supreme Court.
Thank you.
So kudos to all Gambians there. Thank you guys for. But before we have a story there, the planning and the policy and the training coordination office of the Gambia Police Force, in partnership with stakeholders, recently held a stakeholder seminar at the GPFs. That's the Cooperative Credit Union Unit office there in Kanifing. Usman Jada reports.
This seminar seeks to outline the police strategic leadership goal of supporting the reform process of the police force by inviting partners and all relevant stakeholders to discourse on the targeted strategies and visions. Superintendent Sambujang Fati, an associate of the Policy, Planning, Training and Coordination Unit, outlined the need for the seminar.
And to be able to attain this particular daunting challenge or task, we have to ensure that all our partners are brought on board and they are well informed of this particular strategic direction, taking into account all the areas that we need to look into as far as the reconfiguration process of the Gambia Police Force is concerned. And we are most grateful to the police leadership for providing this conducive environment, and of course to our partners for responding to this call. And during today's deliberations, we are going to talk about a host of issues, particularly when it comes to the strategic guidance framework.
Fode Fofana is the Chief Superintendent Police Officer heading the Policy, Planning, Training and Coordination Unit, made a presentation on the strategic framework of the police force.
By intelligence-led policing, we are saying that now the days of firefighting policing are over. The days of reactive policing are over. But we are going to have proactive policing that's going to be intelligence-led. And therefore, we give more preference to capacity building in intelligence, gathering, analysis, processing, so as to inform police operations. We believe that there are many other incidents that we can be able to tackle if intelligence is actually working for us extremely well. Another model that we wanted to adopt is technology-based policing. We'll all agree with me that technology is everywhere. And in fact, criminals are using technology to commit highly sophisticated cross-border crimes. highly sophisticated domestic crimes. So police as an institution cannot do away with technology.
Damin Banta, Regional Police Commissioner for Lower River Region and a participant, while noting the significance of the seminar, says the importance of the seminar cannot be overemphasized, adding that
I think it's a moment that the police are trying to retrospectively take stock of things that were not working right in the previous regime, culminating into that gap being created between the police personnel and the members of the public that they intend serving in terms of meeting their expectations and stuff. So going by that trajectory, I think the fact is this would give police an insight into the gaps, and then solicit funding in terms of capacity development, in terms of logistical support, in terms of improving on their manpower base, and so their activities are policy guided.
Among the strategic framework vision is to build a highly professional, transparent and accountable police force in line with the rule of law and respect for human rights, as well as strengthen community relationships and public trust while striving through employment, development, self-discipline and self-leadership. Reporting for the Fatu Network News Review, Osman Jata.
Thank you very much. So that is it from me today. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, thank you.